And we're back, everybody. Welcome to Hello XLG. That was timing. Uh we're back for another review of another show of a series we like, Dragon Prince. I'm here with my co-host Spirit Magic Helmet, also known as Jock.
Your magic helmet.
Hit that again?
Say that again.
Okay, let me make sure that
I
they can hear you, because the last time we did anything with this and XLG was here, I was talking to myself. As he's saying woo spear, so I think he can hear you.
think so too. Unless you just saw me enter the chat.
And you saluted into the chat. Okay. Okay, we're back for another review of another show. I initially thought maybe we started off with season 4 of this podcast, but I looked at the number of episodes. 30 is where I wanted to switch over to another season, so we're not gonna bother with it for right now. Surprise, we're reviewing Dragon Prince season 5. I think I said 4. That was my bad. He's a bit quieter than me.
XLG says he wants to be louder.
I can't increase your volume. You are literally as like as loud as I can make you, unless you can make yourself louder.
I can be really obnoxious. I can be louder in that way.
He's saying you're quieter. I think he means by volume, but I don't think there's much I can do about that. I think that's just Discord, because I literally have you. I'm listening to you right now at 200%. This is your this is your final form.
200%. That is my final form.
Jesus.
You brought that on yourself.
Did I really? Or did you just want to laugh like a crazy man?
That was my witch's cackle. That's not my crazy laugh.
Sorry, I couldn't tell the difference.
That's more like my crazy laugh. Hello?
No, I'm still here. I'm just can I put
Fiddling.
it'd be really weird. I mean, could I had this crazy idea actually.
It is. You know what, XLG? I think he's deliberately toning me down because he doesn't want me to overpower him. And
As a passive aggressive move in game order to hug the spotlight. Wow. I'm being ganged up on and by somebody who's not even here.
Mm-hmm. So it's like in the MCU when Iron Man won't give anybody else a suit. Why does everybody else not get a suit? Why is every single person?
I think story-wise, he just doesn't trust nobody.
What?
Story-wise, I just think he doesn't trust anybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every single.
I'm giving you some gain.
Why does Captain America not have a suit? It's because Iron Man wants to hold everybody down and be the big hero.
Is that any better, XLG? I literally gave him gain, actually. Not the detergent.
That's what you're doing to me. You want to hold me down.
I'm literally trying to. Okay, the gain worked. So apparently I can add gain to you. So I didn't know I could do that. That's actually kind of weird.
Sure, you figured it out real quick though, didn't you?
You know what? Do I need to kick you off of here?
You figured it out.
Do I need to literally kick you off of here and you never come back again?
See, now that you're feeling threatened, you're increasing the power. You're like, I'm going to suppress you entirely. I see how it is.
Okay, I think it's clear that he just missed doing the podcast. This is what he's doing to me. I'm literally the butt of the joke right now. Okay,
you said butt.
I said butt. Okay, we are back to review the Dragon Prince episodes 1 and 2 of season 5. Before we continue, did you want to, I guess, continue watching them 2 in a row, or did you want to like weed them out 1 a week?
That's up to you. I don't want to become like a threat to your power and get kicked off the podcast, so I better let you make the decision, sir.
Can't facepalm any harder than physically possible.
Sir, I wouldn't want to challenge you.
Asking you because this is a group project.
Whenever I've had a group project in school, I just told everybody, "Let me do all the work. I promise you'll get an A." And then I did all the work.
That sounds like you.
And they got an A every time. Except like sometimes there'd be like one A student that'd be like, "I want to do some work too," and I'd be like, "Okay, well you can do this," and I'd give them like something small.
I guess that was Spira's little anecdote for today.
That was my way of avoiding the answer.
Yeah, I can tell. Well, fine. We'll discuss this later when it's more convenient. We're gonna review episodes 1 and 2 because we intended to start earlier, but life got in the way. So,
2 episodes a week is great, but then what is there like total in episodes? Like there's
9,
not that many already.
I believe.
Oh, 9.
These seasons don't last long. If you haven't noticed.
Then we'll be done, and then what do you want to do? Like put it on hold until something else comes out? Like
I was thinking about Rurouni Kenshin, but I don't know if it's even out yet. As if we haven't decided, I'm not gonna force that anyway. But that's from what I understand, a historical kind of anime. Not really, but it's based off of that show's based off of like a job class that Japan actually had, where there's a samurai, owned by the government. Talk about that later.
Okay.
So because of that, shenanigans out of the way, gonna give it to my co-host here, Jock. I guess we're talking about episode 1. Gonna let him have the floor. I don't think I should give him the floor.
All right, so it looks like the new. Yes, we all get it. It looks like the new series starts out with a little bit of a time shift where they're flying on the dragon. What is the name of the Queen of the Dragons? We can just call her the Dragon Queen, but what is her name? Do you remember?
I forgot, actually. I can look that up real quick as you're talking.
I just don't remember if she has a name.
No, she has a name.
She must, though, because Zim has a name, and the dragons have names. Like, the King of the Dragons, I don't think has a name either, does he?
I think he did.
Well, they go to this...
It looks like her name might have been Zubeya, and her husband's name was Azamondim. Avizandum? I think that's how you pronounce it.
I don't know. I'm not looking at the letters.
And her son's name is, we call him Zim, but it's Azamondius.
Yeah. It's Asmodeus?
Zim's actual name is Asmodeus.
That's interesting because Asmodeus is one of the names of the devil. I don't know if that's a mistake or not, but that's really interesting. Asmodeus is really, really similar pronunciation. So we get a little bit of a time skip here where they're coming up to this. They've flown up on Zubeya, and she's dropped them off at this pouring rain, like in the middle of like the ocean, like shrine thing that almost looks like a crashed like ship, or like if not a crashed ship, then sort of a clamshell or a scallop shell, very ornate at the top. And like the fire giant that they met, the fire dragon that they met earlier, it looks like there's some sort of like sacrifice needed to be made, or an offering needing to be made to have to parlay with this dragon. They bring up this giant ornate chest, and they pull out a gemstone that I personally don't know where they got this gemstone. It seems like they didn't get it from anywhere that we've seen on screen. But if you look at the gemstone, it looks... Go ahead.
I mean, if I could actually interject, I'm pretty sure it was probably from her Dragon's Den. I guess dragons still hoard treasure in this world. I don't know. That's my guess. Because the energy looks like it's something that she probably would have held on to for some reason.
The energy actually looks like very not unlike Zin's dragon egg, like with the energy like glowing on the inside. It's not as multicolored, but that inner glow is like really made me think immediately of a dragon's egg. But this seems to be the offering, and I agree with you. There's a good chance that it came from the Dragon's Den. Even though it was looted, it was only looted for a couple key items. It wasn't looted like cleared out or anything like that. So there's still plenty of treasures in there. And if Claudia didn't know what that did, she wouldn't have made it a target. And we actually saw her come in and out of the Dragon's Den and know exactly what was taken. So it could very, very likely that it was in there, but we haven't seen it yet. So it kind of like conveniently happened off screen. And I think the reason I went through all this trouble was A, to have a really dramatic opening to the new season to get it kicked off well, and B, to follow that theme of needing a sacrifice to be able to speak with one of the great dragons. So he puts it down, and this super cool looking dragon comes up, and I love how they make all the dragons look drastically different from each other. And like, I like that like there seems to be a good amount of dragons in this world. Like, I mean, we start out thinking that I almost started out thinking that dragons were all but extinct, and the King of the Dragons was like practically the only one left. But at this point, they bumped into one in the wasteland. They found the fire dragon. They found the wyverns, like that were like dragon-like. They have Zim with them, and now they've got this water dragon that they've summoned. And it's just clear that there's going to be other dragons at some point. And these are just like the relatively nice dragons. I mean, we can probably safely assume that there's some not so nice dragons out there as well.
Well, the dragon from the last season wasn't really not all that nice.
They're
I mean,
not
he had his
exactly.
moment, but he kind of started out not nice.
Like the dragons haven't killed everyone. They've played pretty softball with everybody. When he did try to kill somebody, it was like for extremely justifiable reason. Like he was set asleep, his precious like scale was ripped off with the map to the most dangerous person alive, and like his battle could just, if nothing else, be just in the name of like protecting all of existence, because this guy seems to be a threat to that.
I just thought about this before I let you continue. It's about that. These dragons. I think it stated later on that the dragon that he just called up to, she doesn't know where he's located. But my problem is not with that. My problem is with, okay, how are they not knowing that Asmodeus? I mean, not dang. Wait, what was his name again? The star of the elf. I forgot his name. Erebos. How did I know Erebos is like? To me, it almost seems like to me that they're positive that Erebos isn't trying to do something. I honestly thought they would have had some connection to where he's at, but maybe they don't. To me,
I
it just
thought
seems
that
kind of weird that they don't suspect anything. It's not until the Earth Dragon that we saw in last season, he was positive that Erebos wasn't a threat as long as nobody knew where he was. It seems kind of weird to me that they don't assume that maybe he isn't trying to get out, or if they are assuming that, they're not concerned until at least the king, Ezran shows up asking for help.
It's kind of a lark that he did find a way out, and he's had to work for years to get this like little tiny loophole he got from Viren to like turn into anything valuable.
Man, it just seems like the dragons themselves don't seem to be all that concerned. You think that they would be, but maybe they just don't consider him. They don't consider him a threat right now because he's in another place. But oh well, continue. I thought that was kind of
I
interesting.
assume that he's been there for like thousands of years now, and that like they've just kind of become complacent about it.
I guess that's true. It's just kind of weird that they don't think anything. Not one dragon has been all that concerned until Ezra brings a point up that he's trying to do something right now.
Even Erebos seemed pleasantly surprised to have a chance to do something. Like he looked up. Viren was looking at him for a long time before Erebos finally looked up and went, "Oh, someone's looking at me. How interesting." Like Erebos was reading books and doing things day to day, but he did not look like somebody that thought they had a chance to get out until he saw Viren. So I think even Erebos was convinced that he had no way out at that point. He was still reading books and probably looking for something, but I think he was more passing the time at that point than really like having a hope that he was going to find some sort of breakthrough.
Well, continue. I just thought that was interesting, and I was thinking about that. But okay, yeah, you bring an interesting point. I guess he would have given up at some point.
I think that each dragon so far has had. I know there's only two, but like the fact that each dragon had one piece of the puzzle also made me think that each dragon was given one piece of the puzzle, like one piece of knowledge, and that you needed all the pieces of knowledge to really be able to get through this. So he's like the first person. What was the riddle of the first dragon where he had the map but he couldn't see it or something like that? He had the map but he
He
can't.
had the
He
map,
can't.
but he didn't know. He didn't. He had the location, but at the same time, he didn't know the location. It was. It
He
was.
said, "I have the map, but I don't know where he is," or something like that. And this dragon said, "I don't know where he is, but I know what is the nature of his cage," which I
Interesting thing
think
was
is
the right
interesting.
dragon for that, though. I'm guessing the queen must have known who would have each piece.
Mm-hmm.
Were you about to say
The
sorry?
queen
I
would know
blocked you.
because she was the queen of the dragons, but I found it interesting that like you would need the cooperation or at least the submission of every one of these dragons, perhaps to like get the keys to getting rid of Erebos. I mean, to getting Erebos out of his cage.
I don't know, because Claudia seems to believe that she can get arrows out with just a map location.
But she hasn't gotten to the cage yet.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying I don't really know. Like, is it like do they need all of them, or maybe they just need the location? I mean, I would honestly more believe they need all four pieces, but at the same time, like I don't know. There's a possibility that maybe there's something you could do. Maybe everyone else knows something. Because it doesn't seem like concerned in needing every single bit of the puzzle to his imprisonment from every single key holder. Piece of the puzzle holder.
Mm-hmm.
He only told Claudia to go after the location on the map. Other than that, he didn't tell her to do much anything else.
I think what Erebos is going to do eventually is take over Varian now.
Well, I mean, according to
I
episode
see,
2, that's what
I see
he's
that more
after.
now than ever. What?
I mean, according to season 8, episode 2, that's what he's after.
With Erebos and him on standing on the opposite side of the mirror.
I mean, yeah, everything. I mean, literally, he pretends to be his best friend, his foster brother, and literally lets it slip that his soul is his most precious treasure. That was like a red flag. I had suspected this from season 4, but nothing was like. It seemed like they were leaning more towards possessing Claudia. Nope, my first snake was correct.
If we can do a really big sequence break right now, which I think we should, given what we're talking about, the entire second episode, and from where Viren exists in it, is about Viren saying that he would do anything to protect his family, while every example shown in the thing is about him just betraying his family in the pursuit of power. And then on top of that, and he doesn't seem to get it, but it's like it's the whole thing. And then there's a scene there where the creature, Sparklepuff, is ranting about something while they're standing over the body of Viren. And if you turn on subtitles while that's going, he's screaming blood of child, while Claudia is quiet and Viren's lying next to him. And Terry looks at him and tells him to be quiet, so he says it more quietly. He's like, what a child. And then Terry says, better. Still no idea why you're saying that, but better. That's at 1557 of episode 2. So I think what that was a hint at, and a really, really subtle hint, given that you probably couldn't understand what he was saying. But I had flipped the subtitles on to see if I could get any hints. Um, that made me think that what's going to have to happen at the end is he's going to have to sacrifice Claudia to switch places with Erebos and imprison himself. And that Erebos is seducing him into that position. That's like where Viren is destined to be headed.
Okay, I have a counter to that. Now you make mention of the visions that I kind of interpreted a little bit differently, but I'm not gonna talk about that right now. But uh, who's to say it's Claudia that maybe needs to be killed because or sacrificed or whatever, you know, whatever's gonna happen. Uh, in his hallucinations, there's an interaction that I wasn't expecting, and I almost feel like the creators knew you weren't gonna expect it. As his son, his first child, when he was a kid, you see for the first time, Varen showing even the slightest love to him. I was looking at that and I was I was like, that's really weird. He's never shown any affection towards Soren as an adult ever. I mean, I understand, yeah, you know, your interactions with your adult children are gonna be different than your kids when they're young, you know, when they actually need you. But it seemed kind of weird to me because like at first, very first couple of seasons, he showed so much indifference to him that it kind of made me think he hated him. But then we have this scene in season 5 where, you know, it's clearly him thinking about his past and I guess everything he's done. It's shown that he really does love his son to, like, I think almost, it's actually kind of crazy how much it seems like he loves Soren. But for whatever reason, he just refuses to show it to him as an adult. I have no idea what really happened there. But you also see after that point, you know, as he's showing his love to his Soren, and Soren starts coughing like he's sick. He says, I'm gonna help you," and then all of a sudden Soren just turns to stone. And I thought that was kind of weird. Like, I wonder what that was supposed to, imply. Now it's probably like a like, you know, a far-fetched theory that maybe he's got to sacrifice Soren. But who's to say that he doesn't love Soren just as much, or maybe he even loves Soren more than Claudia, which would be really interesting considering. Huh?
There's been scenes in the past, and I won't be able to give you exact quotes, but there's been scenes in the past where Virion has made it clear that Claudia is his favorite.
I've seen that, but I'm saying it just seems kind of weird to me that, you know, you all that, you know, leading all of this, I would honestly think he despises Soren, but that scene doesn't make me think otherwise now.
Yeah, and you're talking around 2320 of episode 2. One interesting little thing I found in there that I don't know if it's my imagination or not, but he says, runs up to Viren and he says, Soren runs up to Viren and he says something to him, and then Viren looks back and says, I love you too. But when Jesse and I watched it, and then when we rewatched it, and I rewatched it a few times, I thought when he came up to him, he said, I miss you, Daddy. And then Viren misheard it and responded and said, I love you too. The subtitles say, I love you, Daddy.
That's what I heard.
But I heard I miss you, Daddy. Give it another listen for me. 2320, episode 2. I called Jesse in later and said, hey, could you verify whether or not I'm nuts? What's he saying here? And she said her first hearing was I miss you, Daddy, as well.
Oh, no, don't do that. What the heck? Okay,
Being the child that's always...
Wait a minute, let me just turn the volume.
XLG, if you're still listening, maybe you could jump in and weigh in with your opinion on it too. 2320 of episode 2. I'd be very interested to see what you guys think it sounds like now that I've said that, at least. It's not like this episode isn't like messing with sound as it is. It's got stuff that's played backwards. It's got stuff. It's got nonsense sounds.
What the heck?
Can you hear it?
No, I heard it.
Yeah.
Wait, what the? Now again, also I will admit that no, I guess I still think I still hold my opinion. I mean, yeah, he says he misses him, Daddy. That's what it sounds like. Now that I'm actually listening to it closely, at full volume, that's implying there's something else going on there too. When someone was a kid,
It would make perfect sense because Soren was ignored as a kid and constantly trying to prove himself to his dad all throughout his life. And then he talks in the same episode to Ezra saying, like, you've got to stop taking on so much responsibility and you've got to live your life. You've got to live where you're going to lose your childhood.
but then I'm very confused. Like, and ignoring. I mean, regardless of Soren's behavior, because an ignored kid will act the same regardless. But Varen's behavior here, that doesn't make any sense.
Varen doesn't understand. He's hearing what he wanted to hear.
No, what I'm saying, the way he's acting towards his son, he's doting on him. He's like showing him love. If he was ignored as a kid, what Varen's doing right here doesn't make any sense. Even in the context of even if he isn't a drunk stupor.
All of the love he's been showing has been very insincere. Everybody he's talked to that he said I love so much, like Harrow, for example, King Harrow, for example, he's like, I see you as family too, and I would do anything to protect my family. He's the one that got Harrow killed.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, you saying it's insincere. I just think he's misguided.
Misguided about having King Harrow brutally killed.
Because he felt like that his home was being threatened. I'm not sitting there saying that, you know, Varen is like a good guy or whatever. I'm saying like a lot of the choices he's made, I believe he thought he was doing the right thing.
Right, but what I'm saying is he's so misguided right now that he just can't even hear what his child is saying to him. He's saying, I miss you, and he's like, I love you too. I think it's because he's confused and misguided that he's hearing it.
I don't know, it just seems so weird. Like, I mean, even with all that, and Soren saying that he was like, you know, he wasn't treated really well by his father. This is really weird. I mean, if this is just him having his own weird delusions about how he treated his family, then I guess, yeah, he really was not seeing the full picture.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with that in mind, it's like, okay, if he saw that he was treating if he in his mind believed he was treating his kids fairly, then he really didn't know what was really going on. I wonder, maybe this is showing that maybe it's going to take Soren to snap him out of it, if he were to ever get snapped out of it. Claudia isn't doing anything to help, but, you know, whatever, I'll let you continue.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have 3 journeys here that are going on at the same time in these episodes. We have the Journey of Light with Rayla and Rayla and Callum traveling together, and they're doing positive things for the most part. They're going through, they're seeing fireflies, they're having a really nice time. Positive things are mostly happening. Callum is showing Rayla pure, like, unadulterated trust no matter what she's doing, even though she was deceptive to him for a total of, I think, 4 times. She was deceptive about the coins, and then she was deceptive when she hid about them and lied and said she was talking to Bait. And then she was snooping in his office. And then the third is when she steals his key and uses the secret door. And Callum continues to trust her absolutely, and just says like, "No, I'm here to trust you." You know what I mean? And he's like, "I trust everything you're doing. There's got to be a good reason for it if you're doing it." So they have this like positive start with like mutual trust of each other. And then they eat delicious donuts and coffee on the way out. They stop at an inn and they have a beautiful time at the inn and they feel pampered and happy, and they lay and watch the stars. You know what I mean? And she has good ideas about, going to find the Book of the Elves, and they're going to a big library basically. It's a very wholesome and like harmless quest for the most part. And then you have Claudia and Terry, who are sort of like a more neutral, like dark and light partnership. Claudia's struggle between dark and light is shown in her hair, but Terry's pulling her to the light side, and then you have Sparklepuff, who's sort of like there to cause trouble, but it doesn't seem to be causing trouble. But it makes you really nervous because he keeps walking up to like Claudia when she's asleep, or walking over to things, and you're watching him to see if he's going to do anything suspicious, and he never does. But like you just keep wanting to watch him. And then you have Viren, who's pulling her to the dark. So you have like Terry like pulling her to the light, Sparklepuff kind of staying neutral, and then Viren pulling her to the dark. And you see this conflict all around her about what she's going to do. And everything she's doing right now is out of love, but that's partially because Viren is like out cold and Terry's like the main influence. But they have a much darker and different like thing. Like Claudia and him are carrying like almost a corpse. Claudia is depriving herself of sleep, where the other two are taking time to watch the stars and stop at an inn. She's full of desperation. You've got this thing screaming blood of child," when she lays there, like when she finally passes out. It's a very neutral. And then you have the very, very lost and dark and like hopeless fall of Viren, where he's on the other side of the mirror. And I think part of the reason that you see her so much backwards conversation is because he's on the other side of the mirror, so everything's in reverse. Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the sound reversal of what's going on with the actual situation, where you can hear that. And then you have complete nonsense that they say sometimes that like is in there as well, which the complete nonsense, I think, mirrors his, like, no pun intended, but mirrors his confusion, where there's that kind of thing going on. And then you see even more of a direct thing when Harrow's looking at him. You know how originally he starts speaking backwards over and over again as his eyes go dark, and then like when Harrow falls into the dark version of himself, he says, "Your soul is my treasure."
Mm-hmm.
The backwards words that he's speaking there are, "Your soul is my treasure." So it's almost like a spell that's being cast because he's saying it over and over again. And then when Viren can finally hear it, it's almost like he's now on the other side of the mirror, because that's the first time that he would have heard something backwards correctly. He's still there.
I'm still here. No, this I was looking something up, but it didn't really reveal anything. I was just not going below the child, but now you said that, I didn't know that's what it was saying. But that entire, like, I guess hallucination, well, I guess it's all in his mind, but I honestly thought that a lot of that was happening was like Erebos somehow in his mind. Erebos has been there before.
Oh, I think Erebos has definitely got a hand in everything going on there, for sure. But I think that, well, first of all, it's a dark magic dream, just like we saw Callum have at one point. And they said that it's the first time that you have these dreams, the first time you use dark magic is when you have these dreams, and he's got a new life or a new body or something like that, so that's why he's in that situation. But I'm sure that Erebos, the line between Viren and Erebos is awfully thin, you know what I mean, at that point. It makes you worry a little bit because you're like, your soul is my treasure, your soul is my treasure, and then you see something like being pulled away from him, and it makes you wonder, like, so did that really happen, or did that, like, not happen? Like, if you sold your soul to the devil in a dream, would, like, you have sold your soul to the devil in real life too, or is it just a dream? You know what I mean? Like, are are you having your vulnerability taken advantage of and you've sold your soul when it counts even though you're in a dream, or is it like, you know what I mean, or is it fake? And like, did Erebos take his soul just then, or take over his soul, or claim some new level of control over him, or not? And we're not able to know that just yet.
I mean, half me was thinking that maybe Erebus was trying to, quarantine him in a certain layer of his mind because, I'm gonna actually use another show as an example of being possessed or having something take control of your body. In the show Supernatural, they have all these kinds of creatures that exist in that world, but they have demons in that world that exist, and they typically are able to force themselves into a human body. And we've seen in some cases of even angels do the same thing, where they need to ask permission to go into the body, but they can quarantine the original soul away in a portion of their mind where the soul doesn't know anything is going on. Baron, this could be actually what's happening to Baron is that he's having this entire thing play out over and over in his mind, and he doesn't know what's actually happening. Because Baron's body, his physical body, is doing nothing. It's a limp rag right now.
Right. He's unconscious and awfully sick, and psychologically sick too, not just regularly sick. But it's interesting, if you were to jump on him he's not completely incapacitated. If you were to look in episode 1 and jump to about 540, you see Claudia pick up his hand and hold it in hers, and you'll see his hand close around her hand. And the way it happens, it doesn't look like his hand just flopped around her fingers. It looks like he actually closed his hand around hers. And then he moves his head as well, as almost like he's responding. His head is moving back and forth as he lays there.
Yeah, I think he is. I mean, he's getting closer and closer to being dead again. And that's also part of why Claudia's in a rush.
He's actually not a complete limp rag. Like, he actually was, when she grabbed his hand, he wraps his hand around hers too. Like, he holds her hand back.
I mean, so I would say now in episode 2 he's a limp rag. I mean, episode 1, he's still kind of there. He's still there, period. But I feel like his body isn't being. I mean, it really, because I mean they're touching him now and they're moving him, but he doesn't seem to be responding all that much. I think he grunts at some point in episode 2. I don't remember.
His body's also aware of outside stimulus because he integrates it into his vision. So like, when it rains on his body, like that becomes part of his vision, things like that.
I don't know what to think anymore. I mean, he's Baron, not truly like. I think it's really weird. It's like I still very am like hooked on that one scene with his son, and it could probably mean nothing. He could be right. He could just be showing false love, but I don't know. Just to me, it seemed kind of genuine. But for some strange reason, it seemed really genuine, more genuine than anything else I've seen. Huh?
He's very lost, though. He's very like lost soul. Like, he doesn't realize, even in his vision, when they make it really obvious, he doesn't realize somehow, or he's again goes back to like, I miss you, Daddy, and he goes, I love you too. It's like he's more hearing what he wants to hear and experiencing what he wants to experience. That makes it easy for him to continue to cling to power and like do the things that he's doing.
It's kind of sad. I was watching this. I was like, I couldn't feel anything but sad for him, really. And maybe that's the emotion they want to invoke with the Baron. Most of the time, villains like that, they typically make you hate him or whatever, or to care less. I just can't help but feel sad for him, actually. Like, I feel like he's gonna die, and it's gonna be partially his fault, and then partially not.
Yeah.
I don't know how you really feel about that, but I was like, that's how I'm feeling. I feel like he's gonna die partially just because it's partially his fault and partially not.
He's done a lot of awful things. It's gonna be tough. He's an empathetic character. The show is definitely inviting you to empathize with him, but it's gonna take a lot for him to redeem himself.
I mean, I honestly, I said that before, and I said it not really believe, but I honestly feel like maybe it's gonna be Soren. You would maybe think that it's his daughter that would actually officially be able to bring him out, but I think it actually might be his son. It'd be a really weird situation, but I think that maybe it could pull it off with his son. Like maybe
Or Soren, or Soren could be the one that turns Claudia. Stop
I
it.
don't
But I
know.
have a
Claudia is like a mixed bag, like, and she doesn't seem to be anywhere. At least in my eye, like I'm still very confused about her. She doesn't seem evil. She doesn't seem good either.
well, neither does Viren.
I mean, he's done. I mean, like he's done things in for the sake of him thinking that they're good things, but they're really
So
evil things.
everything she does is because she loves her father. Or Terry now, but
No, I get that. I don't know. I don't know. Probably really wants Soren to be able to bring his father out back out, even if he is dead by the time
I
he
mean,
does it.
she's kind of Claudia is kind of Viren at an earlier stage. Like Claudia is saying, "I'll do anything, no matter how vile, to protect my family," and Claudia is actually doing it. Viren has kind of lost track of that and is seeking power, is being corrupted by Erebos, but Claudia is kind of living what the mantra that um, Viren was talking about.
I mean, he could save both of them. By save Varen, I mean it's possible that to save Varen, it might be in his last breath that he ends up, because he's already dead. He's died once, and he'll die again by the end of all this. But maybe in his last dying breath, he'll probably finally see it. And essentially, maybe in like in the very last moments he ends up speaking to Claudia about everything he's done, and that she shouldn't go down the path that he's gone. It's quite possible that they could redeem him by redeeming through Claudia. But again, I still don't really like. I kind of have a grasp on where Viren is. I don't have a grasp on where she is. Nothing's been to me. Nothing has been set in stone for her yet. Yeah, she's doing things
I
for her
think
family, but I'm still very confused by her character. I don't. Nothing about her makes sense.
I think she's where Viren was earlier in his life, before Viren went fully dark.
And I'm still in that whole. I don't know where Claudia is. I mean, yeah, that still could be what she. She's earlier stage Viren, but I still don't know where she is.
But I mean, the show tells you exactly where she is with her hair. She's split down 50-50 between dark and light.
That doesn't help. Maybe it helps for you, but like, I mean, it may say I'm fighting to be fighting. No, I really am very confused.
Yeah.
There's points that in episode 2, there are points that shows that she's still got the aptitude for good, but the other points too, her whole desire to do anything, it's just.
I don't think she's motivated by good or evil. I think she's motivated by love. I think she does whatever she does out of love. And she's not motivated by good or evil. And like good or evil doesn't factor into that so much.
I mean, I'm just like I'm waiting for like some like I guess overly not overly simplified simplified action of hers to. I'm still I don't know. Maybe I'm supposed to be in the middle with her because she's supposed to be in the middle, but I don't know. It just I haven't like really figured her out, and it's been like 5 seasons now.
So, all of that being said, Rayla's still trying to figure out what she's going to do with the coin. She has them with her. She has this little creature that can make things appear and disappear. She picks up her mother's bow, and then we get like a vision. We can't really. It's kind of unclear exactly what this is. Like, if it's a memory fallback or a vision or just sort of like some sort of montage. But for the viewer's sake. But she gets her mother's bow, and she has a vision of the family. And then when she leaves with the bow in hand, which of course she's going to take because it's her mother's bow, it's hers really anyway. It's forgotten that the Shadow Elves were coming to kill Viren, and that Viren is still considered someone. I'm sorry, we're coming to kill King Harren, and that still means a lot to the guards. And the guards see her coming out with a bow. She's an elf. There's a racism kind of trust breach between the shadow elves and the humans anyway, especially after they kill their king. So there's this moment where she's confronted, and you see the same type of situation happen here. I mentioned the mercy, but there's also the mercy that's shown on the elf versus the mercy that's shown on the human, where the human that betrayed their people betrayed the elves to some extent, where the fire ritual was assigned to create the greatest thing, piece of architecture in the city. And she's similarly given the gift of, even though she did several things here, stealing and all the other things I mentioned, even though she did several things here that could have proven her untrustworthy, she's given the gift of absolute trust despite what happened. I think that's really interesting and significant that both times when someone did a wrong, or at least a perceived wrong against their people, even though it didn't feel wrong to the one doing it at the time, they were gifted with something even greater, which I think is this show's way of showing what good people do, that they're not vindictive, that they're not there to rip a chunk out of you, that they're there to reward you, to show mercy in the form of giving you something to live up to. Whether it's building the greatest piece of architecture in the world, or if it's being worthy of Soren's trust, Callum's trust. That's the direction that they tend to go with here. Like the good people of the world here reward people with the opportunity to grow rather than the opportunity to fall. And that's also what makes Ezra, I think, a better king, and even Callum in this case, a better prince than the female paladin-looking woman that, like, I think secretly feels like she really should be leading until Ezra's old enough and mature enough to be leading himself. But I think that she leads with her mind, and they're leading with their heart, and they're leading with their goodness, and I think that's the big difference.
Yeah, I mean, Ezra's still struggling. I agree with everything you said. It was like Ezra himself is still struggling with being young. And you brought up earlier that Soren brought up that Ezra so focused on trying to be an adult versus being a kid. Um, I mean, let me rephrase that. He's struggling with his responsibilities at a young age. A lot of kids don't have to worry about that. Now, the kids that do, usually, some of them succeed, others don't. Hey, Swan, enjoy alert. Uh, what was I saying? Uh, and yeah, I mean, yeah, Ezra is showing that, and Ezra's still working that out, that balance of being a kid and being being a king. He seems like he's really succeeding with being a king. I guess he's still trying to struggle with being able to be his age.
Mhm.
And there may be a huge dichotomy with that, with him and his age. That you brought it with the woman, Viren's wife. That, like, she doesn't think he's not of age yet. But it's like he's kind of been forced in his this ridiculous situation where kingdoms are gonna be at war. You have like Zadia, people all over that trusting elves and whatnot and dragons, but he's somehow managing to lead his people with the idea of trust. He's
But he
managed to
still
somehow.
wields it. He's still brave about it, and he still wields it, and he still makes the choices that are ultimately proven to be the correct ones. And he's still deemed worthy by dragons. Do you know what I mean? Like, these ancient beasts still see him and deem him worthy. He's definitely a worthy king. And I don't think he hesitates from being a king. I think he feels the responsibility heavily, but I don't think it ever crushes him. I think the duty of being a child is honestly what crushes him. He's like, how am I going to be a child? I'm also supposed to be a child, and he has this dual role, and they're very like incompatible. Like when he pulls everybody together, and his group includes like Bait and the Baker, you know, and stuff like that. In the previous seasons, when he pulls together his inner council, you see a pretty like limited group of people there. You know what I mean, as far as like officials go. Um, so it's almost like he's like at a tea party pretending to be king, but then he steps up and he is king, and his plans are very kingly. And even when his plans start falling apart, and he steps up and he, you know what I mean, like in the last episode when they had that council and the dragon came down and things were starting to fall apart, he's the one that pulled everybody together with his speech. And like you see repeatedly that he's the one that has all the tools needed already to be a fantastic king.
I get that. I wasn't saying that he's not succeeding. I mean, he's succeeding very well actually as a king. It's just that his role as a kid, which should be superseding everything else, is unable to do that because he's lost so much and he has to take up a huge role. He has to fill very large shoes that his father filled. And
Mm-hmm.
in a very weird way, he wouldn't have to do this if it wasn't for Varen. But things happened. Varen himself was being used, and Varen was too dumb to realize. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's
And
interesting
then
that I guess before I let you continue, it's also interesting that when they bring up Erebos' control over like mages specifically, he's able to really get into the heads of mages, but he was unable to completely control Callum. Like I think he controlled Callum for a little bit, but then I think either Callum broke free or maybe he just let go. I don't know. It was something going on there with Callum that he didn't stay in control of Callum all that often, that long. Maybe it was on purpose.
Callum's not power over him. Now that he's been corrupted a little bit, it looks like Erebos can kind of like leverage that. And Callum will no longer be effective, I think, against Erebos.
I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, I could believe that for sure. I'm just gonna wait for like something to happen with his another interaction with him.
Yeah. I
But
don't at least plot wise, I don't see anything that's in the cards right now that show that he can do that. So, what did you think about the introduction of Kapar?
who?
Kapar, Varen's teacher and the guy that was stuck in the coin that she found.
Oh, I must have never gotten. You mean the coin that Rayla found when she was down
Yeah,
in the
I
crypt?
looked at the second coin, and then I had fourth coin, and when she looked at it, it kind of like moved and looked at her back, and she got surprised by it. But she'd found that fourth coin, and then I had written all these notes about like who the heck is this coin? Like what does this mean? But then in the second episode, around 10:27, Kapar's introduced, and it's the same person, I believe.
The old man talking to Varen.
Yeah.
Oh, and I didn't make that connection actually. I was like, who is this old man? Was my initial reaction because like it well my I guess that's why my thought was who is this old man. Based on the way he interacted with him, and I get just because I was eating dinner as I was watching the bit that I was watching with him in it. And unfortunately, wish I wasn't. But
For those of you, not to interrupt you, but for those of you looking for timestamps for this, episode one, she finds the coin at 13:16, and then Kapar is also shown in the closing credits at 23:50, and then he's introduced as a living thing in Viren's dark magic visions in episode two at 10:27.
him as a character was like obviously old master. Uh, he though his wording
And the
was
coin
kind
is
of
left there, by the way. I'm sorry to cut you off again. The coin is left there because then she's distracted by finding the bow.
maybe that's what
So unless she picks up, unless she picks up that coin again. Like you see her reach for it, and her hands hovering over it, but
Hmm.
you see her crying, and the screen pans back, and the coin's still sitting there. And she didn't actually. We don't actually see her pick it up. We see her walk out with the bow later, but we never actually see her with the coin. So the coin could still have been left on the floor as something that just looked like bad news to her that she didn't pick up. She didn't know who that was. She got a bad feeling from it. You know what I mean? So she just kind of left it where it was. Sorry to cut you off, but I wanted to throw that out there that like she didn't actually pick up the fourth coin.
That's what I want to know. Was it that she was it she and that she took it? Okay. I mean, in Varen's old memories, he definitely had like the dark magic taint. Surprisingly, it wasn't on his hair; it was on his arm. And it looked like he needed to bandage it up because it hurt. So I guess he obviously is how Varen learned dark magic. I guess now my question is, how did he end up in the coin? Was it Varen? Except for he's the only person that we know of that's capable of turning people into money.
Right. It was in Varen's. It was in Varen's little alchemy lab too. So obviously Varen betrayed his master, betrayed his teacher, and turned him into a coin as well. So
Maybe I'm
that's
gonna
another
give him
one.
the
Like,
benefit of the doubt that maybe something happened. I don't know. It's very
well, the two
dumb.
people that can do
Yeah.
the two people who can turn people into coins are Viren and then probably whoever taught him how to do that. The guy that taught him how to do that probably didn't turn himself into a coin, so I think we can narrow it down to Viren. Unless Claudia knows how to, but I don't see the plot having Claudia be the one that did that.
No, I think Claudia would have been a baby by the time, unless the babies suddenly are able to emit large magical powers that turn people into coins. But
I just don't think Claudia was ready to turn Viren's master into a coin. I don't think she has the power yet that Viren had to do something that deep.
I mean, they make it obvious that she's very talented. Also, maybe she just
It makes it obvious
innately.
she's very talented, but we're talking about her level of experience. Like she just hasn't put the years in yet compared to that old guy, or Viren for that matter. And I think Viren's power grew. I think Claudia's catching up to Viren, but I think Viren was the more powerful one until possibly recent. I think at the beginning of the series, I don't think Claudia was quite powerful enough to take a master wizard and capture him in a coin yet, or had the motivation for that matter.
Well, what motivation would Varen have had to turn his own master into a coin?
Power, something related to power.
I think he could have still
Like,
gotten the power of
right.
turning his master into a coin if it was really just a power question.
I don't know. It feels very Sith Lord.
But I mean, honestly, with the way those two interacted in his mind, again,
Yeah,
this is Varen's mind. To me, it seemed like the old man thought Varen had a lot of potential just based on the way he interacted with him, and
I knew you'd go
even
far, but I never
mentions that
knew how far
like,
you'd go to get.
hmm?
Yeah, I knew you'd go far, but I never knew how far you'd go to get there.
Yeah, that those words. It made it quite out evident that it seems like Varen he knew Varen had potential, didn't know how much potential he had. Um, so again, this is all in Varen's mind. So like this is probably isn't exactly how they acted around him, but you never truly know. Um,
Yeah,
I think the only person that might have truly acted the way Varen and it had Varen pictured is the king. I think like that probably was probably the most true deformed way how he acted around him. Period. I don't think there was any distrust that I remember seeing when he was alive. I think he truly trusted him to his downfall. Um,
right. And we'll learn more about that story, I'm sure, as time goes on. They wouldn't have just introduced the character and then.
well, man, I hope
Um,
not. I mean, he's apparently still alive in the coin back in the old alcove in there.
right. So it's very dangerous to have that very powerful dark mage in a coin that obviously doesn't have the same contain ability to contain him as it does Rayla's family. Just like chilling on the floor for someone to come along, being shiny and accessible.
But no one knows how
With
to
the,
like. Nobody knows how to like uncoin these people. So far, I mean, right
I
now
know.
he's contained really well in the basement. Right now.
I'm just picturing like mini Erebos though. Like Erebos like had that out with the window, and this dude has like at least some ability to move, and like it's a magic coin and it's gold and everything else. It just
It
strikes me
was
as
weird
like
though. It
not
didn't
very.
move. None of the other coins did
Yeah,
that.
it's not. It's not something you want to just leave laying around on a dusty floor of a place that whose nailed in door like just had the nails removed. That's all I'm saying.
So I guess we could
It's
assume
too.
that old man was the initial royal mage that I think they kept mentioning before Varen took over.
Yeah, probably.
I think they made
Maybe that's how
mention.
Gary got his spot. Maybe he took. Maybe he became royal mage when he imprisoned the previous royal mage. Maybe that's how he did it. Maybe, and then the second move was going to be to take out the king and become the king.
I mean, speaking of the whole king thing and his own visions, he manages to get the crown on his head, and then like as he's freaking out with his wife holding a piece of wood, that was the weird thing in his mind. I was like, why was there like a log in your wife's hand, and she was cradling like a baby, and I kept looking at
And
her
she
like,
said,
is that gonna turn
"You
into
like
somebody? Like, what's happening?
what she said backwards there was the jelly tart you like is going to come back in style." As she
What?
like
What the?
strokes the log like a baby and it makes like a violin shrieking noise that scared my cats.
Oh, your cats were in the right.
Yeah, my cats were appropriately freaked out. I think.
um, I didn't really. Okay, so that made
Well, no,
absolutely no sense.
the cats were just like, "Holy crap, that sound!" That's all.
I guess we can I guess agree on the fact that Varian obviously something was going on him mentally. He wasn't really perceiving reality. Um, I guess that's an interesting thing. Like, I wonder like what ultimately led Varian down the path that he would that led him down. Wasn't his kids? Wasn't his wife? Something screwy happened to him.
Yeah, we're gonna continue to learn more of his story. I'm assuming as time goes on. We've been learning it bit by bit since episode one of the first season.
Well, I mean, they made mention or they made hints at that like maybe something is going on with him, but it wasn't really made evident until like season three. I would guess that like yes, something's not right. Uh, the way he's acting, he genuinely. I guess I want to say is Varian as a character is interesting. He's not really necessarily evil. He's more antagonistic, and he's antagonistic for all the wrong reasons. And he's thinking he's doing the right thing, but in reality, it's just hurting him and the people that he cares about. Well, he says he cares about. I put in quotation marks. Um, so much to the point that he ends up dying at the end of season three and sends his daughter down a dark spiral. Um, only for Erebos to bring it back to life for a year. By the way, that's a very specific spell. To have Claudia cast.
It is.
It's like he intent. Well, I mean, of course he intentionally did that, but still, it's like he intentionally did that. I think honestly, Erebos always had the intention of trying to take over his Varen's body, but maybe it was like a secondary situation to just getting out. I guess another thing you didn't bring up that the main reason why Callum and Rayla are going on an adventure, they're looking for a book on how to kill Star Sky Elves, just in case they are unable to stop them from getting out.
They're
It's like
looking. That's one of their primary goals, but I think they'd be happy to learn anything at this point.
I mean, I think
He's
he's out there trying to learn anything, but I think that's like the main thing. Is like looking to see if if they can find anything. I guess another small thing too. I guess kind of that we didn't talk about a little bit is I think it's in episode one when like Callum is looking just for anything about Erebos in the books. Every time he got to a page with mentioning him, it immediately blacked out like a big old
Right.
ban sign. So it's like it seems obvious that even the humans knew about this guy, and they didn't want nobody else knowing about him for any real reason.
We have to assume they find at least something that gives them knowledge when they get there about them. There's no big promise of that.
I mean, I mean, this journey is going to lead to something. It's either going to be leading to. I don't think they're going to find something to kill him because if there was a way to kill him, they probably would have done it. No matter how powerful you are, you got one life. There's always something out there to kill you. Um, it's possible that maybe he got rid of whatever that could kill him, or two, they're gonna find out exactly what he did, possibly back when he was out.
Right.
Because it's one of the few. I mean, that's very vague, but it's like obviously they're gonna find something because they're going out there to do an adventure. Um, it's all these things. It's all these things work. What they're gonna find that's up in the air. I mean, so far, like ultimately, like, yeah, this is really like really ramping up to something. I honestly think Eros is gonna get out by the end of this season. I saw
I think
some
they
like little timeline of phases of this show, and it looks like there's like a season 7 in the works. They're planning for.
Arrowverse has to eventually get out. I mean, at some point, whether it's this season or the next one, like
I
they
think they
can't do
would.
all this build up have Erebos not get out.
I think he's gonna get out this season. That's just my headcanon. I mean, I really don't know if he's gonna get out. It probably makes sense considering they have. Hmm?
It's like if he doesn't get out this season, what the hell else is going to happen? You know what I mean? Like they need something to happen this season, so it's got to be Erebos getting out.
I mean, I wouldn't. It wouldn't shock me if he got out this season. I mean, there would have been a time in my life if I was watching a show week by week, and I would have been shocked that he got out. But it's like at this point, it's like I feel like he's gonna get out this season. It just seems
Mhm.
like the logical thing to happen. Now, if he gets out this season, obviously he's gonna probably be wounded. He probably won't get out scot free. Is my idea. He's probably gonna get out, and then he's like, I need to gather these runes or something like that that will allow me to uh maybe one of those things that he gets out, but unfortunately eventually it will bring him back in. Type of situation, like maybe like he'll immediately go right back after a certain amount of time, maybe if there's like a time limit.
Right.
Which is, I mean, like you need to find out. We need to have a reason why he needs, Varen's body. Because he's having Claudia lug this thing around anyway.
I think he's switching places. I think he's going to do the mirror swap.
I guess, I mean, if Varen's gonna die, I mean, I guess he can just die in the other world.
Mhm. So the only thing left I really have to talk about very much is the thing that attacks him at the end of the episode 2. The it reminded me of the creature from Princess Mononoke at the very beginning that they fought. Remember that? The boar that had like the stuff coming off of it, like the black tendrils coming off of it. What that reminded me of was the trying to get a time signature for it. 2036.
I mean, I know what you're talking about. I just like I'm trying to think back to Princess Mononoke. You talking about that bear thing that attacked Rayleigh and Callum at their campsite?
Yeah, it was a bear as opposed to a boar, but like it's looks very very similar. The interesting thing to me about that is it's so close that it's really hard for me to think it had no inspiration from Princess Mononoke. And that creature was also beaten by an arrow, and it was while riding an exotic animal. You know, while riding an exotic mount, and the creature was had that black stuff coming off of it because it had been overwhelmed by hatred. And we see that black stuff on there in other situations where like well, no, we don't. I'm thinking of a different anime for a second. But that thing, like the stuff seemed like it was overwhelmed by hate and it had gone mindless. It had gone blind, like it was blinded by its hate and it was chasing and killing anything it could. And that's basically what happened there. Like it killed their horse. It was about to go kill bait. It didn't seem to have any purpose for it. It didn't like stop and eat it or something. It just seemed like it was mindlessly like driven to like destroy everything it saw. It seemed like it popped right out of the opening of Princess Mononoke and like came into there. So it was really interesting to me. Um, but again, you see the lightheartedness is even as they're running for their lives, and Rayla's like, switch with me, or we're going to become dinner, and or we're going to become this thing's dinner, or this thing's lunch. And then Callum's like, well, given the time of the day, it'd be more likely that we'd be dinner. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like you see that like little brightening moment where things are like just getting a little bit like they just can't be let down. And then they have the miracle arrow that they came with their mother's bow that has exactly what's needed to solve things. So, and then we see a brighter moment with Terry and Claudia with the bow and with the boat, and they kiss each other and they have a nice moment. And then all of a sudden, Viren's becoming a coin. So it's really, really interesting how it all works out. But the just that moment. And then the other thing that was interesting to me about that moment is that like it reminded me of a rule of animation that seems to be an unspoken rule for US animation, or maybe it's spoken behind the scenes. But a good guy can never kill a wild animal. Like a good guy is not allowed to kill a wild animal, even if it's attacked. They have to subdue it. And I thought it was interesting that that arrow that seems super powerful and magic and everything else, they hit it with it, and then that just kind of like caused the animal to veer off. It didn't actually kill it. But the animal itself, which was mindless and destructive, and like I said, seemed to be overwhelmed with hate, was able to kill their horse, which was being very brave and didn't like run off or panic or anything in the situation, but held its ground and was destroyed. So I found it very interesting that I had forgotten about that, and I'd also forgotten about how casually Claudia kills innocent animals for her powers. Like she's done many times where she's like sacrificed something alive to like an innocent, you know what I mean, to cast one of her spells. And we
Doesn't
also know horrible stuff happened off screen too, because she said at one point, "You wouldn't believe the things I've done." You know what I mean? To in the 3 year period.
That's what it was. I think doesn't Callum mention that like I mean I guess he's making he's making a dark moment kind of like right about like the chasm that was made out of dark magic. He kind of like made it like that things can become anew. But Rayla mentions that the wound is healing. That was kind of interesting. It kind of made even though dark magic is horrible, um, it
It's not
weirdly
forever.
kind of made that one instance of dark magic like the beginning of something new for some reason. I'm wondering if we're gonna come to a point where we're gonna find out what the purpose of that magic it really was for. 'Cause at
I'd
first
be
it seemed
very.
kind of random that it showed up, but like maybe there's some actual like worldly purpose to it.
Anyway, that spends me. The only other thing I noticed was some pretty cool art in the closing credits of episode 2 that showed Erebos in sort of a different light. You see, most significantly, you see Erebos at about 24:15 or so, building his staff with like a hammer and like some sort of tool. In the credit scenes. But other than
Huh.
that, I didn't see too much else. I think that just about spent me.
I guess I would round this off with a good start to season 5.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm laughing, but yeah, good start to season 5. Sometimes I forget there are like wild animals, so like the reminder that there are wild animals with that bear, kind of like, okay, this is a real living, breathing world we're living in right here that will try to kill
Yeah.
you,
There is a food chain in existence.
huh? What?
There is a food chain.
Oh, yep. It's a nice reminder that like that there are things that can and will try to kill you. Uh, so like, yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. I appreciate the lurkers coming by and hanging out, XLG and Swan.
Yeah,
It's nice
thank
to
you
have the
guys for
people.
being here for the return of the podcast. We will come back next Monday to review.
How many episodes? Call it.
I hate you put me on the spot here. uh, let's go for episodes 3 and 4 at this point. You did episodes 1 and 2.
Fine with me. It gave us a lot to talk about. It was a good amount for the episode. So yeah, let's do it.
Right, to episodes 3 and 4, and we'll come back then to talk about them. Um, hopefully with more plot moving. I think these are 9 episodes. I'm just gonna check just to make sure because I've been saying 9, but I have no real. Let me just check really quick. What's happening? Why can't I? That's what I want. Yep, 9. Just 9. That's a guess before we leave here. I also noticed that I didn't talk about this here before, but like that scene where Soren's coughing and Varian is showing concern. Soren has a dragon doll, and interestingly enough, as he's coughing and as he's slowly about to turn to stone, he drops the dragon doll to the ground. And there's a frame of it, just we're focusing on it. I understand it's probably just to bring
Oh,
emphasis, but it's like it seems really interesting that Soren had a dragon doll here, and he ends up befriending a dragon much later in his life.
yeah, that is interesting. I never really thought about that dragon doll at all. That was really observant of you.
That's kind of noticed. I was thinking about it before. I was like, I wasn't gonna think it, and then I saw it again, and he's coughing, and it's like, huh. But yeah, here he's, and this might just be one of those things that they're trying to bring back. That he had a dragon doll as a kid. We just wanted to bring that full circle. Maybe that's what it is. But it's really weird that they decided to focus on the dragon doll falling to the ground. It's really well made, actually.
Yeah,
uh,
this is a really good series all around.
yep. We'll come back and review episodes 3 and 4. Have a good night, people.